It's our pleasure right now to be speaking with Nicole Lamb-Hale. She is the Senior Vice President of Albright Stonebridge Group, as in Madeleine Albright. Tell us about that.
Well, Secretary Albright was one of the founders of the Albright Stonebridge Group. It was founded right after she left her post as Secretary of State. And it's the result of a merger of two firms, one known as Stonebridge, that was founded by former National Security Advisor Sandy Berger and others.
Tell us about your firm. Give us a little more background, the types of transactions you look for and what you actually do specifically.
Sure. Our firm is really a commercial diplomacy global strategy shop. So what does that mean? What we do is we really help companies understand the non-financial factors that impact their M&A deals in countries around the world, with a focus primarily on emerging markets. And so it's really at the intersection of business, government, and civil society that we work. We really help companies understand the stakeholders that are in the countries in which they want to do business, and we help them to understand the culture of doing business in those countries and how to really develop relationships so they're viewed more as givers and not takers.
Let's build a little bit more on that, Nicole. If you could talk to us a little bit about the trends that you're seeing in these global M&A transactions.
Well, you know, the trends are really informed by what's happening geopolitically in the world. You see a confluence of factors that create opportunities and challenges to these deals. One of them is the growth of the middle class in emerging markets. That is wonderful in terms of opportunities, particularly for U.S. goods and services and exporting to those countries, because they want good things, and the U.S. is still the gold standard for goods and services. So that's a very important trend. Another trend that creates some challenge is a trend towards localization, or protectionism, as it used to be called, where countries are really requiring folks who want to do business, do deals in those countries, to use local, the local favored son, to use local resources. That's a trade barrier, and that's something that when I was in government I really worked to combat. But now that I'm in the private sector again, it's really a reality of doing business in those countries. And so we help companies to try to find the right partners and try to understand what the priorities of the governments in those emerging markets are, so that they can align what they are doing with that and hopefully be viewed as giving to the community. Another trend that's very important is the rise of trade agreements, and there are a couple of trade agreements I want to focus on. One being the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which hopefully will come to close very shortly, that really will represent 40% of the GDP of the world. And it's pretty much based in Asia, and it will create great opportunities in terms of addressing protection of IP and things that really matter beyond tariffs to being successful in business. And then the final agreement that I'm hopeful that will come to the fore is the Transatlantic Investment Partnership with Europe. And that is not so much about tariffs, but it's about regulatory convergence. So when you think about M&A transactions, one of the big costs is dealing with regulations that are different across borders. And this is an opportunity with Europe and the US to really come together and result in great profitability for companies if there can be some mutual recognition of regulatory schemes between the two nations. So it's very exciting, and that's really a backdrop that will impact M&A deals, I think, going forward.
Nicole, on a personal level, you have quite a background. Tell us about your past and how your past employment helped bring you to today and giving you such great insight into the global markets.
Well, thank you so much. It's interesting. My story is interesting in that I started in Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter. I practiced law for 20 years at a firm, Foley & Lardner, and at Dykema Gossett, which was a regional Michigan firm when I came right out of law school. My practice was business restructuring. So I worked with a lot of the folks that are in this room on the kind of the restructuring of deals. And that gave me a lot of insight as I went into government. I was very fortunate to be in the same law school class as Barack Obama, our president. And so I was active in his campaign and had the opportunity to come in. And the job that I loved that changed my life, I think, was the Assistant Secretary of Commerce position that I had in the International Trade Administration. And that allowed me to marry my private sector business restructuring experience, principally working with manufacturers, to these trade issues that we talked about. Negotiating with my counterparts in overseas markets on eliminating some of the barriers to doing deals. And it was just a wonderful experience. I took companies around the world to help them sell their goods and services. And again, they are the gold standard still around the world. And so now that I'm out of government, you know, and when I was thinking about where would I go next, I didn't want to practice law again, but I wanted to stay in this space, and that's why the Albright Stonebridge group was very attractive to me, because we are commercial diplomats. We're really helping U.S. companies to be successful in global markets, and in order to do that, you have to understand those markets, you have to understand the motivation that the government officials have, the motivation that the non-state actors have, and we try to bring that together, that knowledge, to help companies be successful in their deals.
Nicole, it was wonderful sitting down with you today and learning more about your company and your incredible past and what you're doing today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.